In the ruins of a forgotten hall, a voice calls out. The two heroes arrive, their target just ahead. Our boy peers around the corner and confirms that their enemy is isolated, a perfect opportunity. He senses only one presence in the darkness. The blonde warrior's eyes harden with resolve. He turns to the others, asking if they're prepared. The rest of their party signals they're ready to go, though their big friend seems a bit shaky. He insists it's a warrior's tremor, totally not nerves. He calmly explains the enemy's weakness to the team, though even he feels a sense of awe for their foe. Suddenly, the great beast lets out a furious roar. The battle begins, a clash of steel against scales. Our boy casts a defensive spell, holding the line. He's bought just enough time for their mage, who begins to channel an immense power, using water spirits to amplify a powerful ice spell. The dragon's claw descends with crushing force, only to be frozen solid in an instant. With the beast's movements halted, the party's confidence soars. They rush forward, focusing all their attacks on the frozen limb. But our boy looks on in absolute horror. He sees fire spirits gathering around the water dragon. The ice, once so solid, begins to melt away in an instant. 2 days later, the party travels towards a distant city. The group has stopped for a break, but someone is missing. And it seems our boy Lars has wandered off. He's been drawn to a nearby forest, sensing a spring in spirits, where he's found doing sit-ups while hanging from a tree. As one does, Lars drops down, his impromptu workout complete. His large friend checks the time, noting his pace has dropped. He wrings out a towel, the cool water splashing. But his mind is elsewhere, replaying their recent failure. The bright sun filters through the canopy above him. A voice calls out his name, telling him it's time to go. The blonde warrior finds him, questioning his intense training. He explains his reasoning to the horse. Sure, why not? The warrior's expression softens with understanding. They head back, discussing their recent dead-end mission. The blonde warrior explains that all eyes are on them, a memory of their triumphant return to the city. They were celebrated as heroes, the Duke's chosen party. Their leader, Kristoff, the legendary hero, Barton, the indomitable sword saint, the wise and powerful sage, and Kuka, the benevolent saint. A real all-star lineup. And then there's Lars, the spirit user. The people believed they could conquer anything. But Lars's class was a true rarity, unseen for centuries. The people wondered what a spirit user could even do. After all, no one else could even see the spirits. They were just stories told to children. A fairy tale he'd heard long ago. A tale of a great spirit king who maintained the world's balance, and how he once saved humanity from a terrible darkness. A classic bedtime story. But that was just a legend. No one truly believed in the power of spirits anymore. And so, Lars walked among them, an enigma. The only one who could see the world that existed just beyond their sight. That same night, the memory of the conversation hits him. He still can't believe what was said. Kristoff, in a crowded tavern announcing his expulsion, the hero explained that their progress had stalled for a month, and that what they needed was raw power, not support. Lars tried to argue, to defend his spirit arts, but Kristoff was tired of hearing the same excuses. Even Barton, his supposed friend, sided against him, declaring they had no use for someone so low-ranked. So much for that warrior's tremor. Kristoff simply stated they were aiming for greater heights and couldn't be held back. Lars is left speechless, unable to process the betrayal. Barton then suggests they put the decision to a vote. Kuka, the saint, simply smiles and agrees with Kristoff. And the sage, adds that disharmony is too dangerous. Lars can't believe how quickly they've all turned on him. Kuka just keeps smiling, ever the benevolent saint. Kristoff then mentions the matter of his replacement, announcing that one has already been found. A new face appears, offering a half-hearted apology. He's Jason, a high-ranking battle-axe fighter, ready to take his spot. Lars's hands tremble as he clenches his fists. He finally accepts it. There's no place for him here. The weight of their betrayal crushes him. Kristoff watches him with a cold, detached smile. He raises his mug, offering a toast to Lars's departure. How thoughtful. Barton just smirks, enjoying the moment. Looks on with an air of indifference. Even Kuka's expression is one of hollow pity. The new guy, Jason, awkwardly joins the toast. And with a clash of mugs, they celebrate his exile. Lars walks away, reflecting on the last 5 years, alone in the cold city streets. But a voice calls out, telling him to wait. A group of men approach, one recognizing him as Lars. Suddenly a fist slams into the wall beside him. An old acquaintance demands he not ignore them. They surround him, mocking him as Lars the Baggage. Real charmers, these guys. They taunt him for finally getting kicked out of the party. The man gets in his face, sneering that he has no one left to protect him. He's dared to prove his useless arts are good for anything at all. He remembers a time when they all celebrated together, but that memory fades as his own fist clenches. He screams that his spirit arts are not useless. A sudden burst of power sends the man flying. The story shifts to a different time, a different place. An elf-like woman teases a young girl about her appetite. Suddenly, a massive explosion tears through the city. The young girl looks up, her eyes wide with terror, but her companion is more focused on her snack. Priorities, I guess. The girl realizes that no one else can see what she sees. She's stunned by the sheer number of spirits she can see. Back on the street, the bullies notice their leader has gone pale. He tries to play it off, shouting that he's not scared, though his legs tell a very different story. He loses all strength, collapsing onto the cobblestones. He looks up at the boy he just mocked, and is paralyzed by an overwhelming sense of dread. Reflected in his eyes is not a boy, but a monster. A great and terrible spirit manifests right behind Lars. It opens its maw in a silent, soul-shaking roar. The bullies' friends can only stare as their leader hits the ground, out cold. But Lars is lost in the darkness, whispering for more power. The shadowy energy swirls around him, threatening to consume him entirely, until a familiar voice cuts through the haze, calling his name. A young woman named Cynthia rushes in, asking if he summoned the spirit. Lars snaps out of his trance, his eyes wide with surprise. She hurries to the fallen man, concerned about his condition. Using a diagnostic tool, she confirms he's physically unharmed. Phew, no paperwork. Lars looks on, confused, wondering what just happened. The bullies decide to let him off the hook, thanking Cynthia for her intervention. Cynthia scolds the bullies, demanding they apologize to Lars. He realizes she saw him at his most vulnerable moment. She seems flustered for a second, before gushing about how amazing his spirit arts are. But she quickly notices his downcast expression. He tells her the truth, and she's shocked to learn he was kicked out. She can't believe his party would ever think he was unnecessary. She's ready to go protest on his behalf. Finally, a real friend. But Lars just smiles, telling her it's all right. As he walks away, she calls out for him to wait. Cynthia pleads with Lars, her expression full of concern. She offers him a room at an inn for the night. Lars trudges into the room, his bag hitting the floor with a thud. The weight of it all finally hits him, and he collapses. He tries to compose himself, apologizing to the spirits for his weakness. He refuses to believe this is the end of his journey. His mind drifts to a passage he once read in an old book. He considers his next move, wondering if he should try to go solo. But he knows he's a support class. He needs companions. A real shame his last ones were such winners. The word companions rings hollow in his ears. As sleep finally takes him, he finds himself adrift in an endless void. A familiar voice calls his name, and he wonders where he is. He recognizes the feeling of a dream, yet the voice persists. Suddenly he looks up, sensing a powerful presence. Before him stands an ancient, majestic being. Lars can only stare in awe as a massive hand reaches for him. The entity reveals itself as the ruler of all spirits in the world. The very same Spirit King from the old fairy tales. Guess that bedtime story wasn't just a story. Who declares that he has finally come to meet Lars. Lars is stunned, realizing this is the Spirit King from the stories. The king reveals he has watched Lars for a long time, ever since he first chose the path of a spirit user. He thanks Lars for his unwavering dedication to the spirits. And as a reward, he offers him a new power. A small orb of light floats towards him. No pressure, kid. The king warns him of the dangers of rampaging spirits. He must always temper his passion with a cool head. With this gift, Lars has ascended to a new rank. He can now imbue physical matter with the spirit's power. The king explains he can now command fire spirits to burn, or water spirits to wash all away. A power that allows him to bind spirits directly to his will. Lars recognizes the similarity to Ur's elemental magic, but his new arts lack the usual magical signature. He finally asks the Spirit King why he's receiving this now. Why grant him such an incredible power? Couldn't have shown up before. He got kicked out, huh? The ancient being's expression is grave. He reveals that the dark energy Lars summoned earlier wasn't his own. It was the influence of a far more sinister force, the demon race. Lars can only repeat the words, his mind reeling. The demon race? The king explains that after an eternity of slumber, their king is awakening, and he is guiding Lars specifically to purge that darkness from the world. Lars gulps, realizing the labyrinth will be his ultimate training ground. He is told to travel to the land of beginnings. There, he will find true companions and the power to defeat the King of Darkness. He must challenge the 5 great labyrinths all over again, so a do-over, basically. The Spirit King promises to watch over him always. With that final assurance, his eyes fly open. He sits up in bed, wondering if it was all just a dream. He looks at his adventurer's tag, questioning his new title. He rushes to his desk, needing to confirm what he saw. Placing his tag on a diagnostic sheet, he watches it react. The results are clear. His class has evolved to Spirit Controller. He clenches his fist, the truth of it all finally sinking in. Looking out the window, he knows it wasn't just a dream. His sudden burst of energy startles the innkeeper below. With newfound purpose, he throws open the shutters to the morning sun. He leaves a message with the woman at the front desk, a promise to return after starting over in the land of beginnings. He asks her for one last favor, to deliver a letter for him. He wants it to reach Cynthia, the girl who helped him. With a quick wave, he thanks the innkeeper for everything. She suddenly realizes he forgot to pay for the room. Whoops. But Lars is already gone, racing to catch the first carriage. He remembers the Spirit King's gift, a power he can now wield. A voice echoes in his mind, urging him to inherit its will. He summons a swarm of wind spirits, commanding them to accelerate, and is suddenly launched forward with breathtaking speed. The wind spirits swirl around his feet, a gale at his command. He's stunned by the force, feeling his body pressed down by the speed. This is the true power the Spirit King bestowed upon him. He pushes forward, racing towards the carriage stop without losing his breath. The entire trip took less than 5 minutes, his stamina untouched. With this power, he vows to conquer the 5 great labyrinths all over again. All he needs now are true companions. Yeah, good luck with that. His thoughts drift to Cynthia, hoping their paths will cross again. But a sudden shout of his name breaks his concentration, and he's tackled from behind, caught completely off guard. He hits the ground with a thud, the wind knocked out of him. Dazed, he looks up, wondering who just ambushed him, and finds Cynthia, panting but smiling brightly. She catches her breath, looking him straight in the eye, and with a desperate shout, she asks to come with him. Lars can only stare, completely taken aback. His mind struggles to even process the request. She nervously explains that her own party is disbanding. Lars listens, realizing she's facing a similar fate. It turns out her leader was Jason, the same guy who took his spot. Small world, huh? She takes a deep breath, her voice trembling, and asks him to form a new party with her. Lars is completely floored by the offer. She explains she read his letter and is also heading to the land of beginnings. A wide, goofy smile spreads across his face as he agrees. He grabs her hands, promising they'll succeed together. Well, that escalated quickly. The Spirit King's words echo in his mind, the prophecy of finding true companions. He looks at the girl before him, a realization dawning. Perhaps his first true companion has already found him. As their carriage leaves the city behind, Lars thanks her again. Cynthia just smiles, a little flustered by his sincerity. But he's still confused, asking why she didn't just join another party. Her class is a recovery knight, skilled in both healing and combat. A real keeper, this one. He even recalls being surprised that she possessed spirit vision. So he finally asks her directly why she chose to team up with him. Cynthia pauses for a moment, considering her answer, and a memory comes flooding back to her. A time when Lars stood before her and their party, unleashing a power that left her completely in awe. She explains that the reason is simple. She wanted to team up with him, and only him. Lars is left speechless by her straightforward honesty. His mind flashes back to a time when he and Kristoff were inseparable. But their conversation is cut short by a sudden commotion. Up ahead, a carriage is being swarmed by goblins. Classic road trip entertainment. The other passengers panic, but Lars and Cynthia share a determined look. He turns to her, a silent question in his eyes. Lars reassures the others, declaring they are adventurers and will handle it. They leap into the fray, ready to show these goblins what a real party looks like. She understands immediately, her eyes filled with resolve. They split up, Cynthia taking one side of the carriage. A goblin lunges at a terrified passenger. But Cynthia is already there, her mace raised high. She smashes it aside with a single powerful swing. Her expression is calm and focused, a true knight in action. The goblin hits the ground, completely incapacitated. She effortlessly dispatches another, her weapon glowing with power. Guess recovery knight was a bit of an understatement. Lars can only watch, stunned by her combat prowess. The rescued passengers look on, their fear turning to awe. He realizes her strength isn't just physical enhancement, but a fearless will to charge into the heart of the fight. She unleashes a wave of holy energy, clearing a path, and seeing the look on Lars's face only confirms her decision. The goblins don't even know what hit them. She brings her mace down with terrifying force. Lars realizes his new partner might be a bit of a battle maniac. Okay, a lot of a battle maniac. He thinks to himself that she's the one to worry about here. but his distraction leaves him open to a surprise attack. He calls out her name as he summons spirits to defend himself. Cynthia deflects a blow, her speed on full display. But the goblins aren't scared of her. They're terrified of what's behind them. A massive beast emerges, and Lars knows they have to fight. Looks like the goblins were just the opening act. He analyzes its form, searching for a vital point to strike. He forces himself to remember a past battle against a similar foe, a memory of Kristoff, the hero, facing the same kind of monster. Lars tells himself that he can do it too. He sees his opening and prepares to strike. With a surge of adrenaline, he plunges his blade into the beast's side. The sword finds its mark, hitting the creature's weak point. But his blade doesn't pierce its hide. The monster swats him away with contemptuous ease. He realizes his small dagger is simply not enough. If only he had a proper sword, a larger blade. But the Spirit King's voice echoes in his memory. Cynthia cries out his name, fearing the worst. And in that moment, Lars remembers his true strength. He refuses to give up even without the right weapon. Because if he doesn't have a sword, he'll just have to make one. He calls upon the water spirits, commanding them to forge a new blade. The spirits gather, crystallizing around a central point. He commands them to freeze and become a blade. With his new weapon in hand, he charges forward. The monster lunges to meet his attack. He meets its fury with a desperate roar of his own, but the makeshift blade shatters on impact. He's thrown back, his attack completely failing. Yet somehow the massive beast collapses. Wait, what? Cynthia rushes to his side, calling out his name. She tackles him in a hug, celebrating their victory. They share a laugh, relieved and victorious. But Lars's expression suddenly changes to confusion. As he collapses from the sheer force of her celebratory hug, she quickly apologizes and begins to heal him. Guess that recovery night class has some serious strength stats. Meanwhile, at that very same moment in a nearby town, a different party of adventurers celebrates their own recent success. But the patrons whisper nervously about a notorious figure in the corner, a blonde man known as the Mad Dog of Darkness, who seems less than thrilled by the company. A rowdy group approaches him, calling him their leader. But he has no idea who these people are. The blonde man, Kristoff, looks up, clearly annoyed by the interruption. The leader of the Mad Dogs of Darkness, a man named Mustin, asks if he's their target. He was once a noble's son, exiled for his violent tendencies, who clawed his way to the top. But Kristoff is unimpressed, dismissing them as mere nuisances. He asks Mustin what business he has with him. Mustin reveals he heard the news about Lars being kicked out. His crew seems confused, but Mustin explains that Lars was a good kid who never judged anyone. He recalls drinking with him many times, and how much he liked the boy. One of his men gets angry, accusing Kristoff's party of getting arrogant over a new record. Mustin remembers Lars fondly, how he'd always ask him to look out for his friends. Oh, the irony. Kristoff's eyes narrow, recalling a promise he made to Lars. He warns Mustin that if they continue like this, they'll all die. He tells them not to underestimate the labyrinths, but Barton slams the table, furious at being lectured. A fist connects with Mustin's face with a resounding crack. Barton looks on, stunned by the sudden violence. Mustin just scoffs, completely unfazed by the blow. Guess he's tougher than he looks. He turns to leave, telling his men this place has soured, but not before leaving a final message for Lars to return soon. Barton can only shout in frustration as the man walks away. Kuka looks on with concern, calling out Kristoff's name. Meanwhile, Lars and Cynthia's journey comes to an end. As they step out onto familiar ground, it's been 2 years, but it feels like coming home. They've arrived in Ames, the town of beginnings, a place built on the legend of the 5 great labyrinths, and the starting point for every adventurer's dream. Lars remembers his own start here, full of youthful optimism. Before the betrayal and public humiliation. Good times. But Cynthia's attention is suddenly caught by something else. She points excitedly, spotting a familiar shop that's still in business. She suggests they grab lunch at a nearby onigiri shop. Lars asks for a recommendation, and she eagerly points out her favorites, which turn out to be strawberry jam and chocolate-covered rice balls. A culinary masterpiece, surely. Lars can only offer a very strained smile in response, but Cynthia digs in, clearly enjoying every last bite. He watches nervously as she declares it the best thing ever. She then offers him a bite of her own creation. An awkward silence hangs between them for a moment. He politely declines, much to her confusion. With their unique lunch finished, they head for the Adventurers Guild. At the counter, an elven receptionist named Lotta greets them with a warm smile. Lars and Cynthia greet her back, happy to see a familiar face. Lotta mentions she heard about what happened, offering her sympathies. Lars recalls his early days here with Kristoff, noting Lotta's kindness hasn't changed. She asks if they're here to register a new party, and Lars eagerly confirms. She takes his adventurer's tag to begin the process. She explains that parties usually need at least 3 members, but her eyes widen in shock as she reads his tag. Guess rules are more like guidelines. She looks up, asking Lars what his current class is. Realizing the gravity of the situation, she suggests they continue this conversation in private. They're led into an unexpectedly lavish office. Lotta apologizes for not giving them a heads up. Before Lars can even begin to explain, the door flies open, revealing the guildmaster himself. He's Hanuman, a legendary adventurer and Lars's old mentor. The man's grip is as strong as his reputation. He looks Lars dead in the eye, asking about his new power. Lars explains his class is now Spirit Controller. He then tells the whole story of his divine mission from the Spirit King. But Hanuman dismisses it as a childish fairy tale, so much for a warm welcome. Cynthia is left speechless by Hanuman's harsh dismissal. But the guildmaster's expression shifts to one of amusement. He bursts into laughter, declaring he believes every word of Lars's tale. He then asks Lars what he knows about his new class. Lars explains that he also searched for answers in old texts, and he discovered that in all of history there was only one other. The information came from an ancient book he'd found long ago, a tome he only discovered because the spirits guided him to it. When he touched the cover, its unreadable text became clear. It told of a time when spirit arts were revered, and the one man who mastered them, a legendary figure who conquered the labyrinths and sealed away the demon king himself. Hanuman reveals he found similar records in the guild's archives. He lets out a heavy sigh, the weight of it all sinking in. He then turns his attention to Cynthia. He tells her that their party is destined for greatness, but that Lars cannot achieve this alone. No pressure, Cynthia. He asks them to support one another on their journey. Cynthia agrees without a moment's hesitation, and the guildmaster smiles, his faith renewed. Lotta promises the full support of the guild in their investigation, and Hanuman adds that Lars will be getting some special treatment. The story then flashes back to their arrival in town. Cynthia is still reeling from the tale Lars just told her. They both smile, feeling a sense of nostalgia after 2 long years. They've finally returned to Ames, the town of beginnings, the very place where the dream of conquering the labyrinths is born. Lars apologizes for keeping his destiny a secret from her, but Cynthia just waves it off, telling him not to worry. Their bond is stronger than ever as they prepare for their new start. Lotta reveals she'll be their personal guild liaison, a privilege usually reserved for nobles or top-tier adventurers. She explains this is a sign of how seriously the guild is taking his new class. Lars realizes his personal fairy tale is now a recognized mission. With the formalities out of the way, Lotta begins their registration and asks the most important question of all. Their party name? Lars and Cynthia look at each other, drawing a complete blank. It seems in all the excitement, they completely forgot that part. Lotta tells them not to worry, shifting to a report on the Flame Labyrinth. It seems even powerful parties have been failing to clear it lately. Lotta warns them that for a 2-person party, the risk is immense. She advises them to rest and challenge the labyrinth at full strength. The gravity of her words leaves them both gulping nervously, but she quickly smiles, admitting she might have been exaggerating. A little. Lars tells her that after hearing a warning like that, they're more fired up than ever to get started. Lotta just smiles, recognizing the unshakable spirit of an adventurer. As evening falls, Cynthia is already itching for a quick fight. But Lars agrees with Lotta's advice. This is their first time as a duo. Besides, he's more concerned about the abnormality she mentioned earlier. He agrees they need to proceed with caution, but Cynthia reminds him that every labyrinth is a brush with death. In fact, she's practically vibrating with excitement at the thought. Lars is a little flustered by her battle-hungry enthusiasm. She turns to him, asking if he feels it too. He's momentarily stunned by her intensity, but a smile spreads across his face as he agrees. Their adventure is beginning all over again. The story shifts to the 3rd labyrinth city, Dry, where Jason, Lars's replacement, prepares for his first mission with the hero's party. He looks on with a heavy heart, already feeling the pressure. Barton grumbles, clearly annoyed by the delay. Kuka notes that it's unlike Kristoff to be late, while seems completely unfazed by the wait. Jason realizes the party's atmosphere is tense and their teamwork is non-existent. Sounds like a great recipe for success. He remembers the day Kristoff invited him to join, and now wonders if he's truly up to the task. But the hero finally arrives, ready to depart with a confident smile. As they walk through the streets, the crowd cheers for the legendary party. Jason tells himself to be confident. He's one of them now, after all. Kristoff's words echo in Jason's mind, a grim warning. He knows his party members are powerful, on another level entirely, but he can't shake the feeling that he's just holding them back. With a final rally cry, they begin their assault on the third labyrinth. Meanwhile, back in Ames, Lars and Cynthia arrive at the flame labyrinth. They're immediately met by a powerful monster, a hulking beast that towers over them with overwhelming force. Cynthia looks on, paralyzed by the sheer number of foes. The labyrinth's first floor is already swarming with enemies, but a mysterious girl stands before them, completely unfazed. Looks like they've got company. Lotta hands them their newly registered adventurer tags. An old shopkeeper notes how much Lars has changed. He warns them not to be reckless, as injuries have been common lately. He calls out one last warning, telling them to be careful. But they just thank him with a smile, ready for anything. With that, they descend into the familiar darkness of the labyrinth. Cynthia takes a deep breath, savoring the dangerous air. A true professional. They've officially arrived on the first floor of the Flame Labyrinth, a 30-floor tower filled with fire-based monsters and terrain, a challenge that takes the average party 5 to 6 years to complete. Lars explains that for most, the labyrinth ends in injury or retreat. He suggests they only explore for an hour tonight just to be safe. Cynthia agrees, checking the time and noting the second floor is likely their limit. But Lars just smiles, telling her that was before he could share the power of the spirits with her. She clenches her fists, feeling an incredible energy surging from within. Her body feels as light as a feather, ready for battle. He asks how she feels, getting more confident with his new enhancement arts. She looks back at him, a determined glint in her eye, asking how far they can go, and with a shared grin, they race into the labyrinth's depths. Lars calls out a warning as a horde of slimes blocks their path. But Cynthia, empowered by his arts, unleashes a furious battle cry. She looks back with a grin, amazed by her own incredible power. Lars notes that his enhancement is on a completely different level now. They don't even stop for drops, pressing onward at a relentless pace. In just 10 minutes, they've already cleared the entire first floor. 15 minutes later, the second floor is already behind them. So much for taking it slow. 50 minutes after they first entered the labyrinth, they've already reached the third floor, 10 minutes ahead of schedule. Cynthia is stunned, admitting that even a 5-person party couldn't move this fast. Lars reflects that their strategy was simple. Just run. And he realizes that in terms of sheer speed, they're unbeatable. Cynthia cheers as they reach a checkpoint, ready to head back. He recalls it took 3 years to get this far before, but now they could do it in a week. Their progress is officially registered, a new record set. But as they turn to leave, a voice calls out his name. Cynthia looks over, confused by the sudden interruption. They find themselves standing before the massive doors of a boss room. Well, that's not on the brochure. Lars knows this is wrong. Bosses are only supposed to appear every 10 floors. He wonders if this is the abnormality Lotta mentioned, as 2 mysterious figures walk away. It's a flame ogre, the first great wall for most adventurers, a monster that stands over 3 meters tall, wielding a massive club wreathed in fire, a beast so powerful it forces most parties to retreat. But Cynthia and Lars just share a knowing smile. He knows they're still empowered by his spirit arts. And Cynthia looks absolutely thrilled by the challenge. Someone's enjoying this a little too much. Lars declares this will be their last fight for the night. A final test where they'll give it their all. A monster that would crush a 5-person party now faces just the 2 of them. Lars knows the power he's shown is just a fraction of his true potential. He asks Cynthia to buy him some time to prepare a new technique. She agrees with a grin, rushing in to land the first blow. She leaps high into the air, aiming to distract the beast from Lars. Her mace descends with incredible speed and connects with the ogre's head in a single devastating strike. The monster is driven straight into the stone floor with immense force, and just like that, the mighty flame ogre is down for the count. Well, that was anticlimactic. Lars can only stare, completely dumbfounded by what just happened. He collapses to the ground as Cynthia wonders if she might have overdone it. He picks up the drop item, still shocked it was defeated in a single blow. Lars smiles, realizing just how much stronger they've become together. They're both fired up, ready for whatever the labyrinth throws at them next. But their celebration is cut short as the entire chamber begins to tremble. They look up in horror as a dark, viscous liquid spreads across the ceiling. Cynthia points upwards, screaming Lars's name in terror. A massive black droplet forms above them, pulsing with a strange energy. It elongates, gravity pulling it down towards the center of the room. The substance hits the stone floor with an unnatural splash, and as they watch, the black puddle begins to squirm and take shape. Well, so much for a quiet night. Cynthia can only stare, her confidence completely gone. The black substance bubbles and expands, growing into a massive, writhing pile before them. Shadowy limbs erupt from the mass, forming a monstrous shape. They're both frozen in place, unable to comprehend what's happening. Lars's mind races, trying to identify this new threat. He watches as something begins to emerge from within the darkness. A massive owl-like beast rises from the goo. So much for a simple boss fight. It spreads its dark, powerful wings, ready for battle, and Lars is paralyzed by a fear he hasn't felt in a long time. Cynthia's frozen, sweat beating on her face. The shadowy beast looms over them, a terrifying silhouette. Its razor-sharp talons dig into the stone floor. The creature lets out a guttural roar, unleashing a blast of pure dark energy. Cynthia can only watch, her battle maniac mode officially offline. But Lars is already moving, summoning a wall of water to shield her. He screams at her that they need to get out of there immediately. He's never seen a monster like this, but the spirits are screaming a warning. Whatever this thing is, it's on a completely different level of dangerous. Lars yells for her to use a teleport crystal, but the escape item shatters in her hand. Cynthia realizes with horror that it's not working. Lars tries his own, only to find it's useless too. A dark energy is corrupting their adventurer tags. An interference field generated by the beast itself. Looks like running isn't an option. They realize there's only one way out, through it. With their decision made, Cynthia stomps forward. She charges, vowing not to give the monster an inch, and brings her mace down with all her might. But her mace is stopped cold by a wall of shifting darkness. She realizes with horror that the beast is already regenerating. The damage she dealt vanishes in an instant, and the monster strikes back with blinding speed. Lars can only watch in absolute shock. Cynthia is thrown across the room like a rag doll. He screams out her name, his voice filled with panic. She skids across the stone floor, trying to regain her footing. But the impact has clearly taken its toll. So much for the battle maniac. Lars stands his ground as the creature lands before him, its presence overwhelming. Lars points, demanding the creature stop. But the beast seems to recognize him from somewhere. It identifies him as a spirit user, much to his shock. He prepares a counterattack, gathering dark energy, but the monster unleashes a devastating barrage of its own. He glances over to see Cynthia, completely unconscious. The beast speaks again, confirming his class with an air of amusement. Lars is stunned, realizing this monster can actually talk. A chatty final boss, lovely. And the horrifying truth dawns on him. This is one of the demon race. He remembers the blinding speed of its attack on Cynthia. He wants to heal Cynthia, but he can't look away for a second. He apologizes, knowing he has to deal with this first. A healing potion rolls to a stop beside his fallen friend. The demon introduces itself as Aemon. Great, the final boss has a name. It remarks that after an eternity, a spirit user stands before it again. Aemon gathers a swirling vortex of dark power, unleashing it in a devastating torrent of energy. Lars's eyes widen in absolute terror. But he throws up a hand, summoning a desperate defense. The two immense powers collide in a blinding explosion. The clash of light and darkness erupts in the chamber. The shockwave ripples across the floor, stirring Cynthia from unconsciousness. Her eyes flutter open as she wonders why she's on the ground. She looks up in horror, screaming Lars's name. Her mind races, trying to piece together what happened. She tries to move, but a searing pain tells her she's badly injured. But her fear isn't for herself. It's for Lars, who now stands alone against the demon. Her expression hardens with a desperate resolve. She tries to force her broken body to move, to get back into the fight. She reaches for the potion he left behind. Her eyes burn with a single thought: to save Lars. She tells herself that this time, it's her turn to protect him. A memory of a past failure flashes through her mind. A time when she thought one last enemy stood in their way. But her party was down, relying on her to heal them. She focused all her power into a single healing spell, while her leader charged ahead, leaving her completely vulnerable. A classic tank move. She looks on in shock. As more monsters appeared, an ambush she never saw coming, a sudden flash of steel cuts through the darkness, and in an instant, the monsters are torn to shreds by a different party. Cynthia could only stare, stunned by their speed. She'd never seen adventurers move like this before. It was Lars and his party, sensing even more foes on the way. She watched, mesmerized by the way the spirits moved for him. He commanded them with a simple gesture, a dance of unseen power. She'd heard rumors of a spirit user in the hero's party, and now she was seeing that legendary power firsthand. The memory fuels her as she grips the potion, her resolve hardening. Her eyes burn with a new fire, her resolve absolute. Meanwhile, Lars dodges another blast of dark energy. He manages to sever one of the demon's limbs, but he realizes it's useless no matter how many times he strikes. The severed limb reforms from pure darkness, the flesh knitting back together in an instant. It's as if the damage was never even there, while his own power is slowly being drained away. So, a perfectly fair fight. Aemon prepares to unleash another devastating attack, and Lars is sent flying by the overwhelming force. Cynthia's hand closes around the potion she was reaching for. His ice shield shatters under the force of the blow. He knows the next attack is coming and he can't stop it. But at the last second, Cynthia throws herself in the way. He can only scream her name in absolute horror. The demon seems almost annoyed by the interruption. The impact is devastating, leaving her reeling in pain, and she collapses to the ground once more, her strength gone. Lars rushes to her side, begging her to hold on. He looks back at the demon, his expression hardening. The demon realizes its regeneration has been slowed. Lars looks down, noticing a holy light from Cynthia's mace. The lingering energy from her attack is disrupting its dark recovery, so much for a quick heal. And in that moment, Lars understands. He knows exactly where he needs to strike. He calls out to the spirits, pleading for more power. He remembers the old teachings that spirits reside in the 4 elements, a fundamental truth written in every ancient book. But now he can feel something beyond just fire, water, wind, and earth. His eyes open, burning with a newfound resolve. He calls out for a new kind of power, the Holy Spirits. A whip of pure light lashes out, striking the demon. The holy energy begins to dissolve its dark form. It realizes the black mist is made of dark spirits, and that his own spirits are far fewer in number. But he calls on them all, begging for their strength. The demon lunges forward, its fist wreathed in darkness. Lars meets the blow head-on, his own fist glowing. Their fists collide in a cataclysmic explosion, a real clash of titans. The resulting shockwave tears the chamber apart. Lars realizes he's being completely overpowered. He can't fully control this new holy power on his own. But another presence makes itself known. A fire spirit appears, offering its strength to his cause. The holy light ignites, pushing back the encroaching darkness, and the tide of the battle begins to turn. Aemon is sent flying, caught completely off guard. The demon can't believe it was actually pushed back. Guess it's not used to losing. Lars doesn't give it a moment to recover, and rushes in to press his advantage. He unleashes a final desperate punch, a blow that rocks the demon to its very core. Lars puts every last ounce of his strength into the attack. The demon is sent flying backwards from the sheer force. Its dark form begins to disintegrate under the holy fire, and with a final shudder, the monster dissolves into nothing. Lars collapses, barely able to believe that he actually won, but the fire spirit appears, telling him it'll be waiting at the very bottom. A casual invite to the final floor, sure. He's left wondering what that voice could have meant. But his first thought is for Cynthia, and he rushes to her side. Cynthia suddenly sits up, startling the exhausted Lars. Her eyes are filled with tears of relief and gratitude. He just smiles, whispering how glad he is that she's safe. He holds her close, still processing that they actually won. She looks up, telling him it was all thanks to him. He notices his adventurer's tag is glowing once more. With a smile, he tells her it's finally time to go home, and in a flash of light, they're teleported out of the chamber. But elsewhere, a shadowy figure watches from a dark throne. Looks like the after-party is just getting started. The demon queen smirks, aware of what just transpired. The queen calls out to a hulking figure named Oscro. She orders him to the flame labyrinth, telling him to proceed as planned. The armored demon acknowledges his new mission. The demon queen, Asael, declares that their time has finally come. Meanwhile, Lars finds himself standing alone in a white void. He looks around, wondering how he even got here. He feels a familiar presence approaching him, and the Spirit King appears, welcoming him once more. Looks like the divine tech support is back online. Back in the real world, Cynthia enjoys a moment of peace. But in his dream, Lars asks the king about the demon he just fought. The king reveals Aemon was a demon sealed away thousands of years ago. But that ancient seal is now reaching its absolute limit. And so, he offers Lars a new gift to aid him. A small glowing object known as a spirit stone. These stones are hidden within the labyrinths, invisible to all but spirit users. A very exclusive club, apparently. Lars wonders why such a system even exists. The king explains that by offering them to the spirits, their power will grow even stronger. He warns that while Lars won, Aemon was just a pawn. Behind him stands a far more dangerous foe, the demon queen, Asael. To defeat the demon king, he must conquer the labyrinths and claim their power. Lars accepts his new quest, vowing to find the stones and defeat the demon king. The Spirit King fades, entrusting the fate of the world to him. The dream ends as a new day dawns in the town of beginnings. Lars's eyes flutter open, the morning sun hitting his face. He sits up in bed, the weight of his divine mission settling in. He looks down at his hand, a sense of disbelief on his face, because resting in his palm is the very same spirit stone from his dream. He stares at it, realizing this is all very, very real. Guess divine beings don't do metaphors. His first thought is to tell Cynthia everything that's happened. He gets ready to start the day, their new adventure already taking a wild turn. Cynthia stretches, feeling completely refreshed after a good night's sleep. Lars asks about her injuries, but she's already raring to go. She's still in awe of his story about the Spirit King. He admits it's a lot to take in, but she believes every word. He explains that as the only one who can stop the Demon King, he's now their primary target. He warns her that if they're coming for him, but she cuts him off, her expression firm. She just smiles, completely unafraid of the danger. Guess she's back in battle maniac mode. Lars is left speechless by her unwavering resolve. He can only apologize, taken aback by her support. He explains that because he's their primary target. She looks at him with a knowing smile. He formally asks her to stay by his side through it all, and she agrees without a single moment of hesitation. They both know the battles ahead will be difficult, but they shake on it, ready to face the danger together. Suddenly, Cynthia has a brilliant idea. She's finally come up with a name for their party. She proudly declares they will be the Dwelling of the Spirits. Lars considers the name, letting it sink in. Lars seems a little unsure about her choice, but Cynthia is absolutely ecstatic, celebrating their new name. She insists they go report to the guild right away, and Lotta officially registers the Dwelling of the Spirits. A bit on the nose, but it works. Lars then presents the magic stone from the Flame Ogre. Lotta is completely shocked, realizing they already beat the boss. A short time later, the mood shifts dramatically. Lotta explains there's something they can't discuss in public. They're brought back to the guild master's office, where Hanuman listens to their tale of the demon race and their king. He continues his story, explaining everything, and presents the spirit stone he received in his dream. Hanuman listens, the pieces falling into place. He'd been searching the guild's archives, and recalls a name he'd come across. Lotta confirms the spirit stones haven't been seen in 10,000 years, a relic of a forgotten age now in Lars's hands. Lars realizes that events are truly in motion. He knows what he has to do, and that his path forward is clear. He declares their one and only goal, to conquer the labyrinth. Weeks later, they've already reached the 16th floor. Cynthia suggests they take a quick break, clearly feeling the strain. Their goal for the day is the 20th floor boss, a distance they're covering at 3 times their previous speed. His spirit enhancements have grown stronger, even enchanting her weapon. They're well ahead of schedule, their goal easily within reach. Lars watches her, thinking she moves like a Valkyrie from a fairy tale. A real poet, this one. She turns to him with a smile, asking what's on his mind, and he quickly dismisses it, a little flustered by her attention. With a renewed battle cry, she declares they'll push on to the 20th floor. But as they race ahead, Lars suddenly feels a sense of dread. He screams for Cynthia to stop in her tracks. She skids to a halt, confused by his sudden warning. He senses a familiar dark presence just around the corner. His eyes narrow as he recognizes the aura of a dark spirit. And he knows that can only mean one thing. Another demon is waiting for them. He tells Cynthia they need to re-strategize and proceed with extreme caution. They creep forward, drawn towards a strange light at the end of the corridor, and find themselves in a room that, according to the labyrinth's layout, shouldn't even be there. Lars tells her to stick to the plan they just made. Cynthia gives a confident nod in agreement, and with a determined step, they enter the room. He can feel the dark spirits, but the chamber is completely empty, until a massive door at the far end slams open. Lars's blood runs cold as a voice echoes from the darkness. It introduces itself as the demon Oscro. He's here on his master's orders to deal with them. A strange platform materializes in the center of the room. The demon declares he won't fight them himself, but his pawn will. Looks like it's time for another boss rush. A massive minotaur appears on the platform. The demon commands the darkness to envelop his servant. A shadowy aura begins to swirl around the beast. The dark energy consumes it, twisting its very form. It lets out a furious roar, reborn as a creature of shadow. So much for a fair fight. Lars realizes it's been bound by dark spirits. Its massive fist descends with terrifying speed. The demon explains that corrupted monsters are far stronger. It lands with a crash, challenging Lars to show his true power. Lars tells Cynthia they can't hold anything back this time. Cynthia decides to test the waters first, a confident smile on her face. but Lars tells her to leave it to the wind spirits. He empowers her, sending her flying towards the beast. She lands with incredible force and unleashes a devastating blow. A flurry of strikes rains down on the monster, but her eyes widen in complete shock. Her attack barely even chipped its horn. The beast stands completely unfazed by the assault, and the minor damage she dealt has already regenerated, so this should be easy. He realizes this monster is just like Aemon. Even holy energy isn't enough to stop its regeneration. He fires off a volley of spirit bullets to buy some time. He knows he has to imbue her weapon with holy spirits. Cynthia agrees, promising to create the opening he needs. She charges forward, her mace swinging in a powerful arc. The blow sends the massive beast staggering backwards. With the monster off balance, Lars calls upon the holy spirits, forging her mace into a true holy weapon. A divine upgrade, no extra charge. She looks back, thanking him for the incredible surge of power. Her holy mace connects with a devastating crash. She brings the full weight of her power down on the beast. With a furious cry, she unleashes her full strength. A brilliant flash of holy energy erupts from the impact. The monster roars, finally feeling the sting of a real attack. Cynthia realizes that with this power they can actually win. Lars knows their only chance is to overwhelm its regeneration with pure speed. She unleashes a relentless barrage of holy strikes. Guess the battle maniac is back online. The corrupted beast dissolves into a cloud of dark energy. They stand in the aftermath, wondering if they actually just won. But Lars realizes this power is just like their true enemies. The demon's voice mocks them, asking if that's all they have. The dark energy begins to swirl and coalesce once more. And Oscro reforms, telling them they'll be disappointed. He stands before them, completely unharmed by their attack. Lars notes, this demon is different from Aemon, heavily armored. The demon simply raises a finger, pointing at Lars. And with a single word, he names his target. A dark tendril erupts from the ground, impaling Lars. Well, so much for that victory lap. Cynthia can only scream as she's splattered by the attack. Lars is run through, the dark energy piercing his body. His mind flashes back to a simpler time with Kristoff. So much for childhood friends. Cynthia looks on in pure fury, ready to charge the demon. But Oscro simply points a finger in her direction, and with a flick of his wrist, her holy mace shatters into pieces. She's left completely disarmed, facing the monster alone. The demon explains he's only following orders and won't kill them yet, and with that, he vanishes into a cloud of dark smoke. Cynthia is left wondering why he would just spare them, but she pushes the thought aside. Right now, only Lars matters. She rushes to his side, desperately pouring healing magic into his wound. He tells her to hang on, feeling like he's let her down. He thanks her, saying the wound is closed and they should call it a day. But he insists he still has strength left, much to her confusion. They soon find a massive door that definitely wasn't there before. It creaks open, revealing a dark, unknown passage. The air inside is heavy and stagnant, a silent warning. But the room is empty, save for a single tempting treasure chest. Classic. Lars cautiously opens the lid, and they both stare in shock at what's inside. Back at the Adventurers Guild, a serious meeting is underway. Lars and Cynthia sit before the guildmaster, admitting that they were no match for the demon, Oscro. Hunneman listens intently, stroking his beard in thought. He recognizes the name, another powerful foe from the demon race, but his grim expression shifts to a confident smirk. Because he knows Lars doesn't stay down for long, our boy presents the item he found in the hidden chest, a consolation prize, if you will. Hunneman's eyes go wide, recognizing a second spirit stone. To have found two so quickly is an incredible feat. But Lars disagrees, his expression grim. He clenches his fist, admitting he's still too weak. The memory of his painful defeat is still fresh. Cynthia insists they need the power to fight back now. The guildmaster considers her words carefully. He agrees they have no time to spare, but warns that hurrying is not the same as rushing. A classic mentor move. He orders Lars to take the next day off from the labyrinth. The next morning, they take a much-needed break, and Cynthia asks what he plans to do with his day off. Lars explains he has someone he needs to see. The news seems to catch Cynthia completely off guard. She asks if it's someone cute, but Lars looks a bit uncomfortable. He explains this person is the exact opposite of cute, his master from his rookie days. Cynthia seems a little hesitant about that invitation. She explains she also has a master she needs to see for some training. So they agree to part ways and meet up again later that night. Lars arrives at a massive training hall, ready to see his old mentor. But he's stunned to find Cynthia standing there as well. Small world, huh? They both realize with dawning horror that they might share the same master. Cynthia is surprised he's been training his body, but Lars says he'll do whatever it takes. A memory of them arriving at the dojo, a place that hasn't changed. They recall a younger, spikier-haired student rushing past them, a memory that left them both completely stunned at the time. And their master appears, noting he has some rare visitors. They both greet Master Cavalera, confirming the awkward truth. So much for separate training days. The master smiles, calling out to a younger student named Vinda, who seems completely flustered by their presence. Lars offers an awkward greeting as the younger student bows, but their master knows they're not here just to reminisce and invites them inside. They both offer a formal greeting to their shared master. Vinda watches from the sidelines as the training begins. The master effortlessly deflects Lars's opening strike, parrying the blow with casual precision. Lars's eyes widen, completely caught off guard, and he's sent flying by the counterattack, a very hands-on teaching style. His master points out his indecision, his lack of focus. Lars struggles back to his feet, his resolve wavering, but he's met with another swift blow to the chest. The master explains that this is why he's so easily broken. The master tells him to look at Cynthia's example. She strikes with incredible force, her focus absolute. He explains that Lars has always relied on others, and that he needs to stop worrying about her. He must simply trust in her strength. The words hit Lars with the force of the morning sun. His master even points out that physically she's always been stronger. Ouch! A voice suddenly calls out to their master. It's Vinde asking for permission to spar with Cynthia, who seems more than happy to oblige. Vinde is practically vibrating with excitement, asking for a lesson. Cynthia just smirks, telling him to bring it on. The two square off and the match begins. Vinde knows he has to take the first hit, and unleashes a powerful kick with all his might, but Cynthia dodges it with ease. He thinks he sees an opening, his foot planted firmly, but he quickly realizes he's completely stuck. She'd stomped the ground, trapping his foot in the stone. A classic rookie mistake. Vinde can only look on in horror as Cynthia prepares her counter. She unleashes a flurry of strikes, overwhelming the younger student. Lars can only watch, a nervous sweat beading on his brow. Cynthia just smiles, clearly enjoying the one-sided spar, until their master's voice cuts through the air, calling the match. With the training session finally over, Vinde is left on the ground admitting that Cynthia is just too strong. Yeah, no kidding, kid. Lars offers him some water, telling him he did great. They learn he's been training here for just over 3 years, and that he's already challenging the 20th floor, an incredible pace. But Vinde is still dejected, knowing he couldn't even touch her. Cynthia tells him not to rush, reminding him of her own long journey. Lars smiles, assuring him he has what it takes to be great. The young student's eyes light up with newfound hope. Lars gets to his feet, explaining the difference between hurrying and rushing. He and Cynthia share a knowing look, their resolve strengthened. Vinde is fired up, thanking them for the surge of confidence. With that, their master declares the training session is over. He explains it was a chance for the students to feel true power, and then promptly asks Vinde for the day's training fee. Guess even masters have bills to pay. The boy happily offers up the collection, inviting everyone to dinner. The master drops his own coin onto the collection plate. Vinde holds it up, ready to present the day's earnings. But Lars and Cynthia add their own hefty contributions. The young student is completely stunned by the amount. He can't believe how much they've just paid for the lesson. Their master declares tonight's dinner will be a feast, thanks to his generous students. But elsewhere, in a dark and silent chamber, the demon Oscro is summoned by his queen. She tells him he already knows what she desires. She won't crush an ant, but will wait for a worthy foe to emerge. She admits that simply waiting for him to grow stronger is boring. So she's decided to add a little fun to the mix. A villain's idea of fun is never good. Back in the flame labyrinth, they've reached the 20th floor. Cynthia marvels at their speed, 3 floors ahead of schedule. He feels the effects of their training, with plenty of energy left. He's grateful to their master for showing him his flaws. But something on the ground suddenly catches his attention. 2 small fire spirits are swirling at his feet. Cynthia points out that they seem to want something from him, and he realizes they're drawn to the spirit stone in his hand. He offers the spirit stone to the tiny flames. The stone absorbs their essence, glowing with immense power. And from that light, a new, more powerful spirit emerges. It takes on a majestic, humanoid form. Lars feels a new connection, a surge of incredible energy. His eyes narrow with a sudden, profound understanding. The story shifts to a lone figure in a desolate field. A memory of Kuka, presenting him as the world's great hero. But now, Kristoff is alone, wondering where he's been taken. He's not alone for long as a fiery presence appears beside him. Kristoff recognizes the being before him, a spirit he's seen before. The spirit seems to be speaking to him, its voice echoing in his mind. But Kristoff is confused as a strange energy swirls around his hands. He's suddenly engulfed in flames, screaming from the searing heat. The spirit explains that its flames are not just one, but a collective will. Kristoff lies on the ground, staring up at a glowing symbol. He recognizes it as the mark of the fire spirit. A voice tells him not to be consumed by his fear. He reaches out, ready to accept the flame's power. Guess he's a glutton for punishment. And he stands, wreathed in fire, ready to embrace whatever comes next. The spirit asks if he will accept its power. Kristoff reaches out, his answer already clear, and the spirit bestows its fiery strength upon him. Back in the labyrinth, Lars's eyes fly open. Cynthia asks what just happened, her voice full of concern. He snaps back to reality, his mind reeling. But before he can explain, a voice calls out a name. A new face appears, a wild grin on her face, who promptly tackles him in a massive hug. Personal space is clearly not her strong suit. She pulls back, asking if he's the one she's been looking for. She introduces herself as Sarah, a spirit of the blazing flames. Lars realizes the spirit stone's power is visible to all. She smiles, declaring she's here to help her new master. Lars can only offer a flustered thank you in return, but they both agree they can't bring a child into battle, an opinion that Sarah does not seem to appreciate. She declares that she is far stronger than her master, and with a sudden burst of power, she grows to full size, before launching herself forward with blinding speed. Guess the kid gloves are off. They realize she's heading straight for the boss room. They're stunned by her incredible speed. Lars realizes they barely made it in before the doors sealed shut. Cynthia is already exhausted just from the short chase. Sarah stands before the floor's boss, a massive shadow looming behind her. A giant leathery wing unfurls from the darkness, revealing a monstrous flame bat wreathed in fire. But it's not a single entity. It's a massive swarm of smaller bats, a foe that can't be defeated with a single strike as it constantly reforms. The only way to win is to slowly wear it down, a task for a full party, a real test of endurance. But Sarah tells her new master to just stand back and watch her work. Lars tries to argue, but Sarah silences him with a single command. Cynthia tells him they should just trust her for now. Lars can only watch, wondering how she'll face the swarm alone. The tiny spirit begins to gather an immense amount of fire, unleashing it in a massive, swirling vortex of flame. Lars is stunned by the heat, hoping it will thin their numbers. But she splits the attack into two smaller orbs, which then slam into the swarm of bats with incredible force. He looks on in shock, realizing it didn't just thin their numbers. It completely wiped them out in a single attack. So much for a battle of endurance. The flames roar, consuming everything in their path. Lars can only shout that this level of power is just unfair, but Sarah just offers a confident, knowing smile. Her attack detonates in a chain of fiery explosions, completely engulfing the massive swarm of bats. And in the aftermath, only ashes remain. They stand in the silence, realizing the entire horde was gone in an instant. Lars can barely comprehend the power he just witnessed. Guest support class has a new meaning. Sarah floats down, asking if he finally understands her true strength. They both cheer, admitting they were wrong and celebrating their new, overpowered companion. Lars pats her head, admitting she's on another level. Cynthia joins in, gushing over their new powerhouse. Our boy is just completely short-circuiting from the display, but Sarah has had enough of their fawning, telling them to stop. With that, they officially welcome her to the party. Meanwhile, at that exact moment in the third labyrinth, a deadly trap has been sprung on an unsuspecting party, and the hero's legendary group lies defeated on the floor. Kristoff desperately reaches for an escape crystal, but it fails to activate, leaving them completely trapped. Funny how that works. Kristoff kneels, his sword planted in the ground. He's exhausted, sweat pouring down his face. The hero stands alone, surrounded by his fallen comrades and a horde of monsters. He can't understand how it all went so wrong. The story flashes back to just a few moments earlier, where two adventurers gossip about seeing the hero's party running scared. They laugh, mocking the so-called legendary group. Guess word travels fast in the adventuring community, but their laughter is cut short by a familiar face. Mustine grabs one of them, demanding to know what he just said. He's furious, daring the man to repeat his insults about Kristoff's party. The man is left completely speechless. Mustine just smirks, his point clearly made. A guild official steps in, telling them they're not as tough as they think. But Mustine gets in his face, shouting back at the man. Suddenly, a different employee declares an emergency. He orders everyone to evacuate the building immediately. The official announces the labyrinth is being completely sealed, Guess that escalated quickly. Kristoff looks on as the employee explains what's happening. Strange, black monsters have appeared on every floor. Creatures with overwhelming power and instant regeneration. The labyrinth is now in a state of absolute chaos. But Mustine just smirks, seeing this as a perfect opportunity. A new party arrives, declaring the peerless wings are here to help. The guild official looks up, surprised by their arrival. He tries to stop them, telling them to wait. But he's left stammering, unsure of what to say. The party's leader clarifies that they weren't officially summoned. He's completely stunned by the official's response, who explains that their recent string of failures has caused their party's official ranking to plummet. Well, that's awkward. The leader is furious, shouting that they are the legendary Peerless Wings. But Kristoff's mind is elsewhere, thinking of one person, and wondering if all this chaos is somehow because Lars is no longer with them. Barton grits his teeth in frustration, but he's held back before he can start another fight. Kristoff declares they'll just have to prove their strength and end this chaos themselves. The guild official tries to stop them, warning that it's too dangerous. But Kristoff ignores the warning, rushing past him, his eyes burning with a desperate need to prove himself. And in the end, his party is left broken on the cold stone floor. A monstrous figure looms over them, its victory absolute. Kristoff can only lie there, wondering if he was wrong all along. He's the last one standing, surrounded by darkness and his own failure. But elsewhere, Lars and his new party have finally reached the end. They stand before the final boss room, ready for their last challenge, where they find an elf-like girl playing with a tiny dragon, as one does at the bottom of a volcano. The story flashes back a few hours to two figures arriving. A young girl rushes forward, overjoyed to see them return. And Lars smiles, apologizing to Sarah for making her wait. Cynthia asks the elf girl if she was bored waiting all alone. The girl pauses for a moment, considering the question, before cheerfully explaining she was just spacing out the whole time. Lars and Cynthia watch her do a flip, realizing she was incredibly bored. But our boy quickly puts that aside, getting back to the mission. He declares that today is the day they will conquer this labyrinth for good. He asks the elf girl to lend them her strength, and she eagerly agrees. They stand before the final doors, knowing victory is just one fight away. Cynthia recalls their first boss, the powerful flame ogre. But Lars is confident, knowing that with their current strength, they can win. Cynthia notes that his spirit arts are stronger than ever. They push open the doors, certain of an easy victory. But the entire party is left completely confused. The boss room is empty, the final guardian nowhere in sight. Lars's blood runs cold as he senses a familiar presence. A voice declares that it's been waiting for him, and Lars recognizes the demon Oscro. Looks like the welcoming committee is here. The demon compliments them on how far they've come, but Lars declares that this time will be different. Oscro seems amused by the boy's newfound confidence. Oscro points to the floor, opening a dark portal. From it emerges a familiar, unwilling figure. Cynthia can only stare in absolute disbelief. It's Vindy, their fellow student from the dojo, but his eyes are empty, his body wreathed in dark energy. Oscro gives his new puppet a simple command, to eliminate his former friends. Guess the Demon Queen's fun has arrived. The young student lunges forward with terrifying speed. His attack is a blur of motion, aimed right at Lars, who barely manages to block the devastating blow. The force of the blow sends shockwaves through the chamber. The elf girl prepares to intervene with a powerful spell, but Sarah stops her, demanding to know what she's doing. Vinda stumbles, the dark energy causing him immense pain. Sarah stands between them, telling everyone to stand down. Through the haze of corruption, Vinda whispers an apology. Cynthia can only watch, her heart breaking for her friend. Lars realizes the demon is forcibly controlling Vind with dark spirits. Oscro explains this is a test of the boy's will, a very hands-on performance review. Lars grits his teeth, sarcastically thanking him for the opportunity. Oscro dares him to show the confidence he's so proud of. Lars tells his party to wait, to hold their ground. But Cynthia and Sarah declare they'll handle this together. Guess the memo about standing down got lost. Vinda's true voice cuts through, begging them to save him. Cynthia turns to Lars with a knowing smile, telling him that this is a task only he can accomplish. A memory of his past betrayals flashes through his mind, but he takes a sharp breath, his resolve hardening. He declares that he will absolutely save his friend, and prepares to face Vindy's darkness all on his own. Oscro watches the scene unfold, completely unimpressed, but the rest of the party shouts their support for Lars. Vinda unleashes a furious flurry of attacks. Moving with a speed that defies belief, Lars can only marvel at his friend's inhuman strength. Guess dark corruption is one heck of a power-up. The young student vanishes in an instant, reappearing right in front of Lars for another strike. But our boy uses the wind spirits to slide out of the way. He dodges the attack, forcing Vindy into the air. He clenches his fist, knowing he can trust his party to back him up. He knows that holy spirits alone won't be enough to match him, so he calls upon all the spirits, begging for their strength. A brilliant light erupts from his body. Vinda descends with a powerful downward strike, but Lars meets the blow head-on. He catches the corrupted fist in his hands. The young student gasps, his attack completely halted, and Lars begins to force the dark energy out of him. The corrupting spirits are purged from his body. With the darkness gone, Vinda collapses to the floor. Lars gently holds the unconscious Vindy in his arms. The young student sleeps peacefully, finally free from the darkness. Lars whispers that he's glad his friend is finally safe, but his relief quickly hardens into a cold, simmering rage. Oscro just smirks, clearly enjoying the dramatic reunion. Lars turns to the demon, declaring he will never be forgiven. The demon seems genuinely confused by this sudden bravado. Lars just smiles, noting that his own forces have grown. Looks like someone's feeling confident. But Oscro attacks, sending pillars of darkness erupting at him. And in that moment, Lars realizes the dark spirits from Vinda are now his to command. He can not only dispel the dark spirits, but convert them into his own power. And with this new strength, he finally has a fighting chance. The elf girl unleashes a powerful spell from the side, while Cynthia charges in for a devastating pincer attack, but Oscro catches her mace with a single shadowy tendril. Her attack is stopped cold, her expression frozen in shock. The demon simply clenches his fist, unimpressed by their efforts. Guess it's time for the boss to fight back. He deflects the elf girl's attack with a casual swing of his weapon, and she's sent flying by the overwhelming counter. Cynthia is thrown back as well, their assault completely shut down. The demon swings his massive weapon, launching a spear of pure darkness at the elf girl. She braces for the impact, her expression grim. But just as the attack is about to land, she realizes it's been stopped. Lars has moved in front of her, taking the blow. He simply caught the attack in his bare hand. Guess that training paid off. The demon seems almost impressed by the display. Lars notes that the demon has grown stronger, just as he planned, and he promises that Oscro will regret ever hurting his friend. He smiles, telling his party to leave the rest to him. Cynthia is stunned by his confidence, but agrees to stand back. Oscro acknowledges his newfound resolve, but declares that it's nothing more than recklessness. Lars ignites his power, ready to face the demon alone. The demon lunges forward with incredible, overwhelming speed. But Lars meets the blow, his power completely transformed. Cynthia can only watch, amazed by his incredible growth. Guess that training montage really paid off. He parries every single one of the demon's furious strikes. His movements are fluid, his focus absolute. He unleashes a punch wreathed in his newfound power. The force of the blow sends the demon flying across the room. Oscro slams into the wall, his armor cracking from the impact. Cynthia and the others cheer, celebrating the incredible hit. But Lars realizes the dark energy he just absorbed is now transforming into something else entirely. The darkness gives way to a brilliant, holy light. He stands surrounded by a galaxy of purified spirits. Guess that's one way to recycle. Cynthia realizes he's turned the demon's own power against him. And Oscro finally admits that this spirit user is a true threat. Oscro declares that for defying his master's will, Lars will be right here and now. The two face off, the final battle about to begin. Cynthia can only watch, her breath caught in her throat. But Lars just dares the demon to try and stop him. Their powers collide in a massive, room-shaking explosion. The stone wall behind them cracks under the immense pressure. A chunk of rock is dislodged by the sheer force of their clash. It's sent flying through the air like a stray bullet, and smashes into the ground with a deafening crash. Guess the landlord isn't getting his security deposit back. Lars plants his foot, bracing for the final blow. Oscro digs in as well, ready to end this. Their powers collide in a blinding, cataclysmic explosion. The demon is sent reeling from the sheer force of the impact. He looks on in shock, realizing his weapon is gone. Lars's hand glows as the dark spear dissolves into light. He crushes the last of its energy with a furious roar. And with his other hand, he forges a new weapon from pure spirit energy. The holy axe descends, smashing into the demon with righteous fury. And the chamber is filled with a brilliant, purifying light. Lars's expression is one of grim finality. The demon's armor shatters under the holy power. His party can only watch, completely stunned by the display. Oscro falls to his knees, his weapon clattering to the floor. He looks up, admitting that Lars is just as he expected. He declares that Lars is truly And with that, his form dissolves into nothingness. Lars stands victorious, surrounded by purified light. But far away, the Demon Queen screams his name in fury. Looks like he just made the top of her to-do list. His party rushes in, celebrating their hard-won victory. The party stands victorious in the ruined chamber. But the Queen's rage shatters the very fabric of her realm. She whispers Oscro's name, her scrying mirror cracked, furious that he dared to defy her will. She declares she has no time for useless subordinates. Guess he's not getting severance pay, and shatters the last remnant of his existence, crushing the pieces under her heel for good measure. She smiles, deciding she'll handle the next part personally. Back in the labyrinth, the final chamber is now silent, and in the center lies the key, their ultimate prize. They celebrate their victory, having finally conquered the first labyrinth. His adventurer's tag now bears a star, proof of their achievement, but as they look closer, something seems off. He realizes the star's color is different from the last time he cleared it, and in that moment, a memory hits him with sudden clarity. The Spirit King's words, that he had not yet truly conquered any labyrinth. Lars finally understands what the ancient being meant all along. Finding the hidden spirit stones within each dungeon. That is the true meaning of conquering the labyrinths. But his thoughts are cut short as the elf girl calls out a name. Aruno. The elf girl waves goodbye, promising to see them again soon. Back at the inn, the day's adventure is finally over. Lars rests, his body and mind exhausted from the fight. But even in sleep, his journey is far from over. His mind drifts into that familiar, endless void, and he finds himself once again in the presence of a god. The Spirit King congratulates him on truly conquering the labyrinth. He tells Lars that he has grown stronger yet again. Looks like the divine performance reviews are in, but he warns that while the second labyrinth awaits, the dark presence of the demon race is growing ever stronger. And now the Demon Queen Asil has finally revealed herself.